What is going on with this thing? Oh, dear. Finally up and running. Oh no, now I'm out of focus. Out of focus. Am I focused now? Who cares? We'll just go with that. It's because of the ThinkPad. Hello, wizard of the land. Maybe it looks better out of focus. Maybe I look better out of focus. I don't know. Maybe we'll adjust focus in a minute. I'm guessing everyone can hear me. I don't need... Exactly, who needs focus? I guess my audio's working. Yeah, Christian, this is officially the longest live... Well, this is my first proper live stream, and now officially the longest live stream of about 50 technical issues I've had on a live stream. Thanks, wizard. Please, do you like the video? So I'm thinking I'll wait for a few more people to come in. If they come in, they might have just abandoned the whole thing. Yeah, smack the camera. Oh, does that work? No. I'll wait for a few more people to come in, and then I guess we'll start talking generally about things. I don't know. Has anybody got any topics they want to talk about? See if I can get focus on this. See if I can get focus. There's some focus. Focus. I think if you do it slowly, it will... There we go. There we go. Slowly, slowly focus. There we go. Perfect. What technological issues? Oh, my ThinkPad sabotaged my focus again. Maybe I should just get rid of the ThinkPad. Yeah, you're right, Christian. Let's do this again. Let's get focus from here. Let's go. Let's go. Let's do this. Oh. Yeah. ThinkPads ruin everything. They don't. They're great, but there we go. We don't need a laptop. I don't need the ThinkPad. But then I need to see the chat. Let's just make sure I keep it out of focus. There we go. That'll do. That will do. How many people we got in? 5. 5 people. Okay. Give it another couple of minutes. There might be a couple more people. Hi, Sean. Glad you could make it. Sorry if it's a bit early for you in Las Vegas. Was it like 7 a.m.? 6 a.m., sorry? 7 a.m.? Everyone can hear me, right? Just want to make sure. 6:25. Now that is a true subscriber. Why can't I have all 600 of my subscribers like that? Well done, Sean. Thanks, CFBDK. Appreciate it. Another one of my best subscribers, I would say. No, all my subscribers great. Anybody who takes any time to watch any of my videos. I probably wouldn't watch my videos, to be honest, but I'm glad people enjoy them. So they're okay, aren't they? They're a bit different, maybe. Okay, so we've got what, 7 people? That's fine. All of my best subscribers are here. I don't need anyone else. Well, we can just talk generally about Linux, about anything, but I wanted to sort of start off by talking about, does anybody watch Mashed? It's like it's a channel called Mashed. It's got about 10,000 subscribers. He just recently uploaded again after not uploading for about 5 months. What are your thoughts on NixOS? Well, to be honest, I haven't really got any thoughts on NixOS because I haven't really used it. But it sounds interesting. I like the idea that you can have a configuration that is your distribution. Is that right? Would you say that's the best way to describe it? But yes, sorry, just to interrupt myself. I don't really, 3 years I'll have a NixOS. Well, it's funny because what I wanted to sort of start off talking about was this channel called Mashed. I guess I could put it in the, chat. Let's find it. Mashed. He's got about 10,000 subscribers. He's quite young, I think. He's a I think he's a computer science, university student. He's like a Luke Smith clone, like one of the post Luke Smith clones. And let's see if I can find that video. See if I can find it. Okay. Go. Here we go. Copy link. Yeah, I guess we can watch it together, can we? I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't want to. This is the thing. When I'm going to talk about something, I don't want to like rag on other Linux creators or YouTube Linux people, but it's just an interesting thing that I've noticed. So this guy is like a Luke Smith clone. You know how since Luke Smith's gone, there's been a lot of people all about like DWM, ST terminal, suckless software, all that kind of thing. Yeah, Mark McNally is an interesting YouTuber. He hasn't posted in a while. And anyway, this guy, I don't know what his real name is, but his channel's called Mashed. And anyway, he's posted a video recently about leaving Arch Linux for Debian. And I don't know, I find there's a strange thing going on. I don't know how anybody else feels about it. Strange thing going on with some Linux YouTubers. Literally Luke Smith clones, like post Luke Smith clones. I don't mean that in a nasty way. You know, those kinds of Linux YouTubers. So think of like Brody Robertson. I mean, DistroTube is somebody who was on around the same time as Luke Smith, is still obviously making videos. But there's an interesting thing where a lot of suckless philosophy, or people using suckless software, using lightweight, minimalist, terminal-based software, using the command line. Joe Delaney. Oh, I've heard of Joe Delaney. I need to have a look at him. And they've sort of got away from that. And I understand, like, if you're making Linux videos all the time, and obviously I've done what, a month and a half now, you're going to run out of content, I guess. You're going to run out of things, and you're going to eventually go back to graphical based software. You're going to go back to X11 based software, let's say. And obviously Brody Robertson is big on, well, he's big on Cosmic Desktop written in Rust, and that's fine. I have no problem literally with that, and I have no problem, like DistroTube does a lot of graphical user interface things now, and I understand he's covered so much software. It makes sense. It makes sense that you're going to cover other things, and there's, you know, I think graphical environment software is completely valid. But it's just interesting, like this guy here, Mash, he's come from a slightly different perspective. So, but even him, who again was like, you know, big on DWM, big on suckless type software, had his own like configs, GitHub with all this kind of stuff on it, is now, you know, just basically running a vanilla Debian. He's literally just running a vanilla Debian. Okay. And yeah, that's perfectly valid. He's saying that he broke his Arch config, as far as I'm concerned, because he installed, well, okay, it's been a bit harsh, but he installed the Android Studio, or whatever it is, you know, the developer studio. Hi, Sol, another great subscriber of mine. And it's like 17 gigs. Imagine how many libraries, imagine how much stuff. And I understand it. He's a computer science graduate or studying computer science. He's probably got to have all this software on his computer. But I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, 17 gigs for that developer studio. Does that seem mad to you? I understand that's probably what he has to use, but it basically broke his computer. Yeah, Luke's early videos were great. I mean, I'm not going to comment on like the whole Orthodox Christianity thing and whatever, but I mean, it's what it is. It's what it, you know, it's his channel. I mean, like I put up a video about the Aztecs yesterday. I put that video up and then somebody actually unsubscribed from me. So there you go. Don't blame them. Yeah, XYZ is a meme. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It's a cheap domain, right? That's basically what it is. I mean, I use XYZ because of him, because it's a cheap domain. So anyway, and so it just seems to me like a lot of Linux YouTubers who, you know, all about minimalism, all about terminal-based stuff, just end up going to like Debian, like vanilla Debian or KDE or Cosmic Desktop. Maybe that's where the content is. Maybe the minimalism is just a meme. I don't know. But the reason I'm saying this as well is because I hope this isn't just going to be a ramble, this whole stream. Yeah, and this is a good point. You know, the configs can get you down. But what I'm going to say is this. So like most people, you start off with like Windows, okay? Let's just assume most people start off with Windows. You go to school, you have your Windows computers in the computer lab or the IT lab, and you learn Windows, right? You know, your home computer, your family are going to have Windows. Then you get your own computer and you just, you know, default Windows. Then you start exploring, and that's when you get into Linux. You probably start off with the graphical environment, start off with, like, you know, like a Debian. You're probably not going to start off with Arch Linux, Linux Mint, all this kind of thing. And that is perfectly valid. I don't have a problem with it. But let me say personally, now I'm not going to necessarily go on why I specifically went to Linux and Arch Linux, but let's say I've been trying to get away from graphical environments. I've been trying to get away from actually the complexity of a computer system and bring it back to the terminal, bring it back to like a software minimalism. And the biggest reason actually is because of this ThinkPad, right? So this ThinkPad is the reason. Oh, I've gone out of focus. Big mistake. Broken the. Okay, let's go back in focus. Don't want to lose my train of thought. Oh no, it's even worse. Even worse. Is it going to get focus? Broken focus, guys. I've got it back. Okay. The reason I went to the terminal, Linux minimalism, people like Luke Smith for this kind of stuff was because I wanted to future-proof my old ThinkPad. And personally, I am not, and I won't, and I can't abide new laptops. I can't abide the way everything is integrated and soldered in, seemingly impossible to upgrade, to replace parts yourself. And I just don't like the design. So I've been actively trying to get away from that. So obviously I've got to future-proof my old ThinkPad. Is not going to like, in so many years, you know, a full KDE desktop. It's not going to like GNOME. It's not going to like Cosmic. I want to get away from that. That's the thing I'm running away from. Not running away from, you know, the risk of Arch Linux breaking, the risk of, you know, some minimal setup or something that I've got to fix. And I understand, you know, sometimes things can be impossible to fix, maybe, and that's possibly what happened with this guy, this channel runs MASH. I understand he is, you know, his priority is getting his degree right and having something breaking. But, you know, I've sort of jumped back to Windows through, you know, I can go into this in another time, you know, through circumstance, because of work or because of something else. But ultimately, it's got my backup, okay? And even today, like, my wife has a relatively powerful laptop, and it's just awful. It's absolutely horrific to type on. It's so uncomfortable. Of course, it's all soldered in together, and it's running Windows 11. And you just look at like the task manager for Windows 11. It's like 6 gigs idle. You know, even if you think of running a graphical environment in Linux, you know, you're just hitting 1 or 2 gigs. Even if I had the most powerful computer in the world, my back would just be up. I'd just be annoyed. Because I can't abide that. I can't abide that when I know, really. And if you're somebody who knows how to use the terminal, you know how to use minimal Linux software, you know how to configure things. I don't know how you could go back. I don't know how you could go back to a graphical environment, even if you thought it was going to be more stable. And I'll tell you why, because in a way, if you're trying to be minimal and you're installing Android Studio or whatever it is to develop Android apps, I would rather have another computer just separate to do that. Personally, I can do my personal stuff. I just couldn't. I could not. I couldn't. That's why I've got this testing laptop, actually, because my main laptop, there's no way I'm gonna, you know, F it up, if that makes sense. A little ramble there, just something. I don't know if anybody's actually watched that video in the past. I like building. So I just thought that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. Well, thanks, Sol. I'm glad somebody appreciates. So somebody agrees with me. Got a new laptop because I was going to travel for Christmas, and NixOS made hopping so easy. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of NixOS. Let's have a look at chat. Let's go back up. And somebody said Windows subsystem for Linux is the best way to run Linux. You know what? I mean, I personally, I couldn't accept having Windows as unless it was for work. I couldn't accept it. And running Windows subsystem, Linux subsystem on Windows, I can see it being useful. I can see why people do it. I mean, obviously, I guess one of the most famous YouTubers who does it is Network Chuck. He does it, so and he obviously is a very successful business person. He's he's in web security, but obviously just runs I think he just runs a YouTube channel, really. If only the M4 Mac Mini. Well, Asahi Linux, is it? Sounds so wrong. Asahi Linux. That seems to be getting up and running for Macs, doesn't it? I like to build my own custom free kernels. So you're using Plasma 5. Look, I mean, again, everybody just uses what works for them. Well, I'm just surprised, like certain YouTubers who are obviously, focusing on Linux minimalism, end up just completely abandoning it. I couldn't think of anything worse, honestly. Even if I had the most powerful computer, I couldn't go back to running like GNOME or KDE. I just couldn't do it. I like building rigs from used eBay parts. Used laptops can be more risky. Yeah, I mean, building a laptop is obviously, again, even, well, with an old ThinkPad, I guess it's not so integrated, but, some things aren't, you can't just put it in the motherboard, or you can't just put it in because the laptop chassis or the casing won't fit it right, and then it's just compatibility. Well, it's funny, Christian says, got to have the GUI until you find a wife. Well, that's it. I mean, I went from GUI, found a wife. Now I've gone pure minimal. That's the way you do it. Okay. Don't start off minimal, because then you won't find a wife, and then you'll just end up with a minimal, and then you'll probably go back to the graphical. Then you'll find your wife, and maybe you'll go. So start off. Anybody single here? Start off with Cosmic Desktop. All the women will flock to you for using Rust. Okay, Rust Desktop. You'll be the most popular. You'll be so fashionable, and then before they know it, bam, you hit them with the Linux minimalism. They've married you. They can't escape unless, of course, they put it in a prenup. Sorted. That's how I did it. Minimalism for life, wife for life, sorted. Okay, don't do it the other way around. Everybody experiencing Linux knows this now. Exactly, Sean. Exactly. Yeah. So did you cover how you got started with Linux at start stream? So yeah, I'll give you a little story on how I got started with Linux. Like most people, I mean, it's not the most exciting, but I guess I've got a slight unique take on it. So I'm in my late 30s now, okay? And when I was probably in my late teens, early teens actually, I had a friend, funny enough, who was really, really big into computers. And I seem to remember he installed Arch Linux in like 2003 or 4 when it was brand new. I mean, Arch Linux was like apart from Slackware, the sort of OG of base setups, but packaged with a package manager, right? I think pretty early on, Arch Linux had its obviously Pac-Man and all this. I mean, Brody Robertson's done a whole history on this, and he had Arch Linux running. The funny thing is, though, and I guess this was just a situation at the time, he couldn't do anything. I just remember he had like Arch Linux installed. I think he had like GNOME like loaded up and like a wallpaper, but he couldn't like do anything on it. I think he was like learning the command line. Now, I didn't have that situation. I didn't have my own, like I had a family computer. I didn't really have my own computer, so I couldn't necessarily delete Windows from the family computer and install Linux. That would have been funny, but I couldn't do that. So he showed me that he Arch Linux, and I think he was like building a personal website, a pretty cringe personal website. Anyway, so that was that. I didn't really think about these kinds of things. I mean, I played like computer games with friends and whatever, but I did like play computer games on PC, but on a Windows, whatever. But I didn't really think about this stuff. And I guess another talk I would have, or discussion I'd have on here, is about like education, not specifically about Linux, but like computing. I think I've like hinted at it before. So anyway, he had a Linux setup. I didn't really know anything about Linux. I just remember it was Arch Linux. This was like back in 2003. And some years later, when I started getting my own laptops, I had a laptop, and I just got fed up with not being able to customize anything. So let's be honest about it. Customizing Windows, if you can customize anything, is hell, right? You can do maybe one or two things, but ultimately your hands are tied. You know, there's all these like mods and skins, but really you can't do anything. Let's be honest about it. So I installed, I don't know, I think it was Ubuntu. I mean, the cliche, I installed Ubuntu. Even then, it wasn't the most powerful laptop, but even then, I didn't find Ubuntu work that well with it. Again, you had all the drivers. I mean, Ubuntu's been good for the Linux desktop because obviously they develop drivers, and that's, to be fair, the same with System 76 and Cosmic. You know, they're very good at driver development. But even then, I struggled with Ubuntu. It just annoyed me. Okay. So what I then did, I thought, okay, if I'm going to use Linux, how can I make it as minimal as possible? And I wasn't going to tackle Arch. I mean, it just scared the hell out of me. I wasn't using the command line, right? So I installed Ubuntu. Hey Doc Mallet, thanks. I installed Ubuntu. Okay, so Ubuntu is, if you probably, I mean, why am I explaining it to the converted? You know what Ubuntu is? It's like the LXQT or whatever it was. I don't know what it is now. Graphic desktop environment for, although they've got like 3 different ones, haven't they? Like XFCE, I think. I don't know. Anyway, so it's very lightweight Ubuntu. Okay. And I didn't mind it. It was okay. It was best of a bad situation for me. And it just worked. Again, you get all the driver support. And this was around the time I started screenwriting. So if you've seen my video on filmmaking, screenwriting, or whatever, I think I mentioned that in there. And this is the time I started using that piece of software called Trelby. God, this is really exciting. I know this is so boring. But anyway, so I started doing screenwriting. I did it on Trelby. I wrote a few screenplays, and it just worked. And then for like work, I'd use Windows. Obviously, I'd have Windows laptop from work, and so those worlds didn't collide. Okay, it wasn't a problem. Anything and everything I could do was fine. Yeah, I mean, Ubuntu was kind of nice, but the problem with Xubuntu, Xubuntu, sorry, is it's just, again, I wanted like the most minimal, really the lightest weight, where I didn't have to use the command line, I guess. So then, so this is about, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago. So then I ran Ubuntu for years. That install I never got rid of, just kept updating it. And this was like the era of like mechanical drives. Okay, so it didn't really run that fast anyway. So I was running Ubuntu, and then Python 2 became Python 3, and that absolutely changed everything. So the funniest thing was, the laptop I had at the time was a 32-bit machine. Can you imagine that? 32-bit. And Ubuntu stopped supporting 32-bit. And Python 2 became like Python 3, I think, or was that a bit later? Anyway, so basically, I was in a dilemma. What do I do? So I just upgraded. I was running a Dell Latitude, nice Dell Latitude, 32-bit, I know, but it was absolutely fine for what I needed. And then I upgraded to a ThinkPad like this one, X201. And then that's when, funny enough, I was searching. It came with Windows. So I just ran Windows, okay? And it ran fast enough. It's got a solid state drive, and it was fine. But obviously, I kind of itching to get back to Linux. But I was thinking, well, I'm just using a graphical environment. The other thing was, that's when Python 2 became Python 3, and using like the screenwriting software, which was written in Python 2, converting it to Python 3 was a big pain, I seem to remember at the time. It was just a big pain, especially if you weren't, you know, into the command line programming, all this kind of stuff. It was just a big pain. So what I did was I was using Windows. I'd like Python 2 installed, and it ran Trilby, whatever, I can't remember. And I went like that for ages, but I kept getting annoyed again. I could not customize Windows to how I wanted it. This is Windows 10, right? And it just got on my nerves so much. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And then I just remember around that time, I was looking at Luke Smith. I came across Luke Smith. Yeah, I know, Python 2, Python 3 is still a pain, right? And this sort of leads on to actually the Python 2, Python 3 thing is why I use as minimal software as possible and command line software as possible. Because let's be honest about it. If you're using Bash as your shell, or ZSH as your shell, or whatever, and you're writing shell-based programs, they're never going to let you down. Bash, let's say in the next 10 years, is not suddenly going to be incompatible with a script you wrote all those years ago, especially if you write it in SH, okay? And all this kind of, maybe even if you change to BSD, depends on what programs are loading in your shell, whether BSD has that program, whatever, you know. But I digress. So back to the story. I was using Windows, and I was like, how crazy is this, right? This, you know, if there is one thing to say about Cosmic Desktop and tiling Windows, here's the joke with Windows. I think they fixed it now. You could do a horizontal split, right? Or a vertical split, but you couldn't like fill the bottom half of the screen. So you'd do a split in Windows, two windows, two panes, okay? And then you'd have to manually drag the window to fill the bottom half of the screen. Does that make sense? So to fill out the horizontal, I had to manually drag. There was no way, there was no shortcut. All the Windows shortcuts, which were like 20 of them, there was no way to have a setup that I liked, okay? It was just impossible. So then around that time, I'd seen like a video, because I was looking at ThinkPads, because I liked business laptops. I wanted something to replace my Dell Latitude that was the old 32-bit. And I'd come across Luke Smith's, like one of his second video, I think. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I wasn't using Vim then. This was the time I was using Trilby, which is that Python 2. Now it's in Python 3, I guess. And it was on Windows as well. So Vim Diesel, yeah. And so I just could not do this anymore, because when I'm screenwriting, I don't want distractions. I want to be able to just get into what I'm doing. And anyway, I was looking at ThinkPads, because I was replacing the ThinkPads This was before, right? And I was always aware of Luke Smith from that video. And then I noticed he was using like command line Linux, let's say, minimalism and all this stuff. And then I went back to his videos and I'm like, what the hell am I doing this? Why am I suffering Windows? I don't literally need Windows. I've got like a work laptop for Windows. I don't need to use it in my personal life. So, and so then I installed, okay, don't do this. I installed, what's it called? What's that? Manjaro. Okay. I wanted to be Arch, and I installed Manjaro. And I thought, oh, okay, well, their key bindings will kind of give me what I needed. So I knew, okay, this is a step up. Okay, I'm sort of going to learn Linux through Manjaro. I'm going to be on Arch. Okay, and it was just, I did it for like, I don't know, so many months. And while I was on Manjaro, I was learning stuff from Luke Smith, and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to learn the command line. So I'd try and basically do all of my Manjaro stuff from the command line. And then one day I thought, you know what? I'm going to install the AUR in Manjaro. And you guess what happened? I completely bricked Manjaro. I mean, absolutely bricked. You know, like that video I was talking about, Mashed, where he's bricked his Arch. I completely bricked Manjaro. But the thing was, when I did that, I wasn't thinking, okay, I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go crying back to Windows. I'm going to go crying to I'm going to go crying to Ubuntu. I'm going to go crying to Debian and install GNOME or KDE. I thought, no, this is it. I can't do this stuff anymore. I need to have absolute control. I need to have something specifically for me. You know, I think Luke Smith said it, you know, Arch Linux and the shell are extensible. Okay. You know, you can script in whatever you want. If you think about it, if you look at all the different minimal packages on all the things you're going to do in a desktop, except for maybe gaming and the web browser, everything can be done in the terminal and still customized in the terminal. Look, don't get me wrong. I understand people do like seeing a graphical interface. I understand that. But for me, I couldn't do that anymore. And I wasn't going to put up with it. And I thought, this is the way to have something that actually won't break. So my main computer, almost everything is scripted or a minimal piece of software. So it's as simple as that. So for my email, it's Mutt, okay? I use Mutt. I don't even have like huge configs on it. Not even as much. I like having the life too. It's true. But I'll be honest, I don't have to maintain almost anything I do now. It is bash, let me put it this way, bash, shell, sh is not, 10 years from now, is not going to break. It's not going to break. And remember, make sure you get your wife first, then give up your life, and your wife won't be able to divorce you, or she might divorce you. It's a risk, but that's the best way to do it. Yeah, I found don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm just saying from my perspective, I'm not an absolutist in this. I understand. I mean, my wife's never going to do what I do, right? Okay. And if my wife got into it, I might divorce her because she'll be too busy configuring Arch Linux. So the only issue is the web browser. Onboarding girlfriends was great a bit. I keep trying to open to, yeah. How do you sneak in Arch? So that's really how I ended up where I am. So you've probably seen in the video, I use this program called, I risk putting this in here because I don't want anybody to use it, not because I don't want people to use what I use, but I haven't got the config right on this. So, but I'll show you what I use, okay? If I can find it. Why can't I find my own program? Can't even find my own program. Okay, let's try again. See if I can find it. Where is it? Oh, weird. Can't even find my own program on GitHub. Yeah, so I use this thing called TTYSH, which is just, yeah, I occasionally use a terminal multiplexer. What I'll probably do in a minute is go back on the chat and just see what people were saying. But, and really it automates everything I do. So, and I like prompts, I like while loops, I like, you know, all this stuff. What am I talking about? Let's see if I can find this now. So weird, I can't even find my own. Is that going to work? Here we go. Okay, this is what I use. Okay, and it's just really a shell script. But if you look through it, if you look through the code, it just automates everything I do. The only thing is, it's really for Artix Linux. So I am using Artix Linux on my main machine, and my config on that isn't quite right. So I did set up a config on it ages ago for other people if they want to use it. Whether you don't use it, don't risk using this on your machine. Okay. I think it's got like a prompt saying if you run it, it will it will prompt you. I think. I hope it does. It prompts you before it installs anything. Just don't. Sounds so bad, doesn't it? But anyway, so let's have a look at the chat. That's basically my Linux history. Okay, let's have a look. Let's have a look at. Whoa, there's quite a lot of chat. Asahi Linux is a few generations behind. I had a MacBook, but it apparently destroys battery life as well as no 120 hertz. No go. Doesn't work with M3. Okay, so Asahi or Asahi Linux is still in works. They're still working on newer chips. Is that right? I don't know. I'm fine using FreeBSD on a used MacBook during commute. Ruby scripting. Okay, interesting. Tmux in Nevada. Arch. There's a meme channel that installs Arch every day until he gets a girlfriend. No, that can't be true. That can't be true. I've got to have a look at that. I've got to find that. Brilliant. Have you seen a spoof interview of a Rust developer? I don't know if I've seen a spoof video of a Rust developer, but is there a channel called Program as a Human too? And they sort of take the mick out of things, don't they? I'll watch them. I'll have a look at that. Next door 10x software developer. Yeah, I've got a feeling that's whatever it's called. Program as a Human too, the YouTube channel. Really funny. I started on Apple 2 Plus, machine language programming attempts as a young guy. Impressive. spoof videos remind me of shooting yourself in the foot with C, Perl, Fortran, Pascal, etc. memes in the 90s. An old Red Hat distro from the OG days, 1996 plus Slackware. Impressive. Ubuntu is good on ramp. Yeah, I mean, Ubuntu, to be fair, is just a good way to start if you just want something to work and to learn. But like I sort of had in that video before, sometimes you've just got to break things. You've just got to get your hands dirty, or you're not really, everything's going to be taken care of for you. And really, you're never going to have a system that works for you. That's really what it comes down to. What works for you might be, you know, a whole vanilla GNOME setup or vanilla KDE setup or Cosmic. But I don't know. For me personally, I just this also goes into what I'm probably going to talk about at some point, and I might talk about this in a minute about I might say this about what am I saying? So I have my own opinions about education and computers. I've kind of covered it in a video before. I might talk about it in a minute. It's something I might talk about. Don't know how long. 46 minutes on the stream. Not bad going. I've used Ubuntu a bunch. Debian plus XFC is the best. Somebody mentions doing a vertical split in Vim. I do actually for my screenplays. I do a horizontal split, and I have like my previous version of my screenplay in the top horizontal split, and then what I'm working on in the bottom horizontal split. I do that. It's my workflow for writing screenplays. Set up 2 dev environments: Nix, NVim, Rust tools, GUIX. Okay. i3, yeah. Board and girlfriends is great. Yes, I use. Do you use a terminal multiplex? I use Screen. I know. I'm not using Tmux. Controversial, right? Audio's glitching. Oh no. Let's close this out. Your video about Fizzlock was an inspiration. Okay, thank you. Fizzlock. Oh, is that the VLock one in the TTY? My computer history goes back to TRS-80. TRS-80, aren't those the computers they used to call trash computers or something? My first Linux was early Red Hat, some better system. Don't you? Okay, sorry about the microphone if it's crackling. Okay. My only worry with the microphone at the moment is if I try and fix it, I'm going to break the stream. I will work on it. I'll do some, for any future stream, I'll do some testing. Don't you? Programs also human, yeah. I've never tried Alpine Linux. It's a bit like NixOS. It's one of those Linux distributions that's genuinely interesting. So they're obviously doing things a different way, the way they package, or the way they don't have a package manager in a normal sense, or the way that, you know, obviously Nix has a configuration file that is your system, right? I would like to, so maybe future live streams, I will maybe try and install Alpine Linux on a virtual machine. Maybe I'll do NixOS as well. I don't know if that will be a good stream to do. My only slight concern is where I'm using this ThinkPad, I can't, well, I probably can find a way, but I'm not running OBS. And obviously, really, I need to run OBS, I think. Because I don't have a GPU. It's technically a GPU in this, but obviously not suitable for OBS. So might have to do it on my wife's computer. Might have to do it on Windows. Will I have any subscribers if I do that on Windows? On a virtual machine? I don't know. Before Red Hat, I tried to install Debian around 1999 from floppies into a 486 gateway machine. Cool. Programmers are like me are entropy machines that convert coffee and pizza into code and heat. Yeah, that's the classic way of programs now. And I mean, that would be 1990s programmer, coffee and pizza. 2024 programmer, probably soy lattes and hummus wraps or something. You know, it's just what it is. It's just what it is. Mac 7 intercepts. Hiya, nice channel. Thank you, Mac. Everybody should learn how screen works. Yeah. Yeah, screen is cool. Although I don't really, I'll be honest, I only use screen to do certain things. So I don't have screen as like my desktop environment. If you look at my program or my script TTYSH, you can see where I use screen. Basic on a TRS-80 back in the day. Nice. Nice. Got some classic programmers in here today. I like to see that. I like to see that. So what was I going to say? So this has gone a bit, well, I've caught up with chat. Let's talk about something else. What should I talk about next? Well, I did mention education. So I kind of want to do a video on this. So I don't really want to go into it too much, but whatever. I'll talk about it a bit. So what should I save this for a video? Should I save this for a video? I feel I should save that for a video, but I have an issue with the way, certainly in Britain, certainly in the UK, how IT is taught pre-university, pre-getting your degree in, say, computer science. I have a big issue. And it involves a bit of a story. I'll kind of want to save that for a video. There's plenty of things I want to talk about, though. Just trying to, should have wrote a list. Yeah, terminal panes in Vim, Tmux and Screen both work. Yeah, for me, if I'm using a text editor and obviously I'm using Vim, then I prefer splits in Vim or panes in Vim. I guess you can have buffers in Vim as well. Well, yeah, I mean, we can talk about this. I mean, this is kind of covered by people experienced in programming. I mean, already. So, I mean, obviously, the obvious one is the Primogen. I imagine many of you have probably seen videos on his channel. When he talks about it, I think he's worried that a lot of modern day developers are web devs who learn some framework, right? I don't know what the frameworks are these days, Angular and all this kind of stuff. And really, they're just gluing together more hair. Not much more hair, but more hair. I should shave it. I've got a bald patch, but oh no, I've gone out of focus. All I did was touch my hair and I've gone out of focus. Okay, we hitting focus. Oh, focus. There we go. That's better. I will never touch my head again and break the camera. I don't know why it picked up focus there anyway. So, I mean, Primogen, he sort of talks about a lot of web development now is just learning a framework, which is just gluing modules together, right? So what TypeScript and using NPM and all this kind of stuff, whatever web development is now. Now, obviously, I'm not a programmer, but really, what I'm doing is gluing, stuff in Bash or Shell together. I'm not rolling my own HTTP server and all this kind of stuff. But I guess if you're a programmer, you should have some fundamental. If you're a developer, you should have some fundamental understanding. And I think the Primogen's worried that that really IT in 2024 for web development is lacking in fundamental concepts, fundamental understanding, and that if something does break in a framework, nobody would know how to fix it, or that's the trend. And of course, ChatGPT for generating code and for error checking. I don't know. I'm not the person to ask about that because I'm not a software developer, as you can probably tell. Vim can even be configured to display tabs. Yeah, I mean, Vim is great, right? You can do so much. Of course, you can run commands in Vim. You can run, in theory, I think you can, through Vim, of course, you can run commands. So in theory, you could surely run your computer through Vim and then just, maybe that's something I will look at. Maybe I will load up the Linux terminal, the TTY, load up Vim, and then do everything through Vim. I don't know how that will go, but that'd be interesting. The early Tandy machines came with beginner-friendly manuals and programming tutorials, didn't they? Preview is a huge topic. I'd be interested in your opinion because my nephew is attending a school in England. Okay. I'll say what I'll say about it then. School and college in Ukraine, they taught computer science and then programming for me and used Ubuntu. It was my first experience, and since I hate how nameless. Programmers should really look at Casey Muratori's talks. He is also paid education if you really want to learn how computers work, come in and work. Yeah, it's funny because I think it's Casey Muratori on is it the Primogen streams and that. I don't watch Primogen streams, I just watch his YouTube excerpts or whatever it is. RxW probe is a wizard running shell commands to argument Vim. Okay, cool. Right, so yeah, I'll give you my thoughts on education, certainly in England, in Britain. So let's just start with a story. So when I think I mentioned this in a video though, this particular bit. So when I was very young at school, so maybe 6 or 7 years old, we started to get Windows 95 computers, okay? So this is really even the era of the command line. So really in England anyway, pre the early 90s, a lot of computing was actually done on British-made computers. I think like the BBC Acorn and all this kind of stuff, BBC Micro. So computers were effectively command line interfaces with, like, I think BBC had their own, or BBC Micro had its own programming language, BBC Basic. So you would learn all this kind of stuff, and there was like personal computers like the Commodore and Atari, I guess. And this was obviously more command line based. So before I got into the education system, computers were generally command line based computers. That's my understanding. I guess DOS started to have its first graphical environment, and obviously, whatever Mac was. And then Windows 95 came out. And what happened was, at our school certainly, and I guess schools up and down the country, because even I remember this around that time in the news, schools took on Microsoft 95 computers. Either they were given them for free, given free licenses, and because everything in the world started to run Windows 95. Everybody wanted the graphical environment. Everybody just wanted to load a word processor. So easy. A spreadsheet. How wonderful. But my issue is not that these things existed. I understand why, as a consumer, you want the path to least resistance. If you want a word editor, you just want to click on it. I understand that. My issue is with schools. So well, first of all, what doesn't make sense with schools is why, oh, why? Whoa, I think I've killed my stream. We've gone down to from like 15 to 20 to 7, whatever. I'm going to continue with this. Is that I was basically, the only thing I've shown on my computer was how to click a mouse on Windows 95. Okay. I wasn't shown anything else. I was shown how to click a mouse because everything is intuitive, right? Most buttons have like a hover window that tells you what they do. Most things have, I don't know, some kind of prompt, some kind of instruction in the graphical environment. You don't have to bring up a man page, you don't have to bring up that. So all I was shown was how to use the left and right mouse button, how to move a mouse over a screen. That was my computing training, okay? My issue with that is, well, first of all, what piece of equipment are you using on a computer almost all the time? Realistic, even in the graphical environment, your keyboard, okay? So they didn't teach touch typing. And for me, that's a big issue. I had that video where I talked about this, about levels of learning. So you didn't learn touch typing. So that was the first sin for me. And the point with school is you should be given fundamental concepts. And using a computer, the first fundamental concept, hello, Ahmed Nasser, the first fundamental concept should be typing. Oh, just found my channel. Well, welcome. Now you're on the first live stream. Fantastic. You should know how to touch type. If you're spending all your time typing, which even in a graphical environment, you're going to be doing a lot of typing at school, in work, why are they not teaching this? If you're on the home row, you're making the least amount of movements. Now, obviously, you know, you've got QWERTY, you've got Dvorak and all this, and obviously all these arguments can be made about using that. But I just don't understand that, first of all. Second of all, is if all you're ever doing is clicking around on Microsoft Word, Excel, a web browser, and this was the other thing that happened at my school. They didn't teach you programming. They didn't teach you coding. They showed you HTML. Very badly. They showed you how to do a few tags. They didn't understand this themselves. Make a website load, obviously offline. They wouldn't pay for any domains or anything. So you would learn, let's be honest about it, I was learning nothing in my IT courses. I was learning nothing. And then they did this weird thing. Again, have things that actually, this, like for me, if something is not, if you don't have it at stake in life, right? So let me put it this way. You're not going to learn things if there's nothing at stake, right? If you don't need to learn something, you're not going to learn it. Let's be honest about it. So I needed this ThinkPad to run as minimal as possible. I wanted it to run as minimal as possible. I had to learn it, run it as minimal as possible. Okay. So I learned how to shell script. I learned how to run Linux programs, minimal, command line, all this kind of stuff. And I retain that knowledge as much as possible, put the effort in. Now at school, obviously a curriculum is a curriculum, right? And obviously one of the biggest issues with school is how do students retain knowledge? Are they going to be interested? But why don't they get students using the command line, not making HTML websites, but that very badly, not learning how to click a mouse that anybody can do themselves after 2 minutes, but learn how to build your own things that you're interested in. So why not teach them how to use the command line? Show them how to script something. Show them a while loop, a for loop, a case statement, a variable, a function. These are relatively simple concepts, but concepts that in the command line, in say bash and shell, even hell, I don't know, power, whatever it is, PowerShell and Windows, get them building the stuff that they want to use. If you want to teach, you know, pre-computer science students fundamentals, basic fundamentals, get them using a command line, get them using simple programming principles have them use the keyboard, because you're going to be using the keyboard. They will learn the basics. It's no different from the English language in the sense of, it's all well getting children to read Dickens, but you wouldn't have children not understanding what an adjective, a verb is, an adverb. You see what I mean? You know, if you're only absorbing, or sorry, not absorbing, if you're only dictated to what something is. So if you're only dictated to, this is a graphical environment program, you're going to have to use your mouse, click around. If you're only dictated to, you are just going to be its slave, okay? You're not going to be its master. If you're not its master, how are you going to have an environment that you spend a lot of your life, whether in work or at home, that works for you? You're not going to. You're just going to do what I did for years, and probably plenty of people on my video or watching my videos. You're going to just have to accept that Windows 11, Windows 10, Windows 95, Windows 98 dictates everything you do, how you do it, whether you have to buy a new computer because the old one's outdated and won't run the next version of Windows, whether the program you run runs like garbage, whether it doesn't give you the options. But really, there's enough in basic shell scripting, in basic programming principles in the command line to give anybody the tools that they need, with obviously packages in Linux and whatever. I'm not even saying specifically Linux. Linux just happens to be the best of the bunch for having a system that is specific to you. That's my issue. Really, people aren't given the basic fundamentals like they would be in English and in maths. Nobody's going to, you know, finish their high school maths and realistically be Sir Isaac Newton or Stephen Hawking or Albert Einstein, but what they will be is competent in using a computer. Really, you're not competent in using a computer if everything is dictated to you. You can't customize, or you can't have an environment that works for you, but you're still expected to use this stuff all the time, whether in work, in home. To me, it just seems crazy, a crazy situation. And schools don't really have the excuse. Schools are there to give you fundamental concepts. They're not there just to buy Mac and Windows licenses, foist them on students who don't know any better. And I wouldn't have known any better. Teachers probably don't know any better. And also it will prepare them if they ever go into computer science. If you're going into computer science and all you're learning is some framework using Windows, and yet you've never used a command line, it's just crazy to me. I mean, was it Primogen sort of talks about this, but to me, it's just absolutely crazy to me that you'd have a computer science degree student who doesn't understand how to use the command line. Because you hear it all the time, like, oh, Bash isn't a proper programming language. Fine, I understand why people say that. Oh, using Bash in the command line is stupid, or Shell is stupid. You'd never make. That's not really the point. No, you're not going to use Shell and Bash to make, although people have, you know, a Vim, right? You're going to program it in C, or you're going to program it in Rust now, of course. But Bash is integrated to your Linux environment, right? So on the TTY, or, you know, on the command, it's integrated. It's the base communication tool with your system. And it is a programming language because you can do all these basic programming concepts to have what works for you. You know, even if it is just launching, you know, something in X11 or whatever. I'm not saying, this is the thing, these people make false equivalents of Bash being like C or like Rust or C++. No, it's not. Of course it's not. But what it is it's a simple way to have a simple way to have an understanding of how your system interacts with your shell, with your command line, and therefore how you don't have to rely on Windows. You don't have to rely on VS Code. You don't have to rely on these things. It just seems like you're learning English and you've skipped, you know, adjectives and adverbs and whatever, and then you're getting into you know, advanced philosophy of, you know, some, I don't know, I'm going off completely off thing here, but there's a false equivalence made between Bash and programming language. I know Bash is not considered a program. I know Shell is not considered a programming language, but it is a fundamental tool of a system. And if you don't understand your system and you're in computer science and all you understand is a framework for web dev. Now, if that's what gets you paid, that's fine. But of course, we see it a lot where, you know, people make these things. I don't know. I've gone off topic there. Maybe I should have done this in a video, but yeah, I mean, Ahmed, that's completely fine. I mean, I'm not saying that when I say these things, all I'm saying is schools, the education system doesn't have the excuse. What I do is completely up to us. But to my mind, schools don't have the excuse. And then my issue is like higher education, they make this false equivalence, like Bash is like some evil enemy that's out to get you if you're a programmer. Oh no, I don't want to have to write something in Bash. It's just like, come on, really? But it makes me think the reason it happens, it makes me think that people are scared of the command line. They're not really scared of Bash. They're scared of the command line because nobody showed them the command line. For them, the command line is running VS Code and running a terminal, right? Let's be honest about it. I mean, I just worry. I worry that, you know, it's just this continuous thing. Like the command line is the enemy, whether you're just a normal person or in programming. And school should teach you these basic principles. You should be forearmed with simple understanding. I mean, I can give you, you know, I can give millions of reasons why this is the case just in real life, right? Where you're using a, you know, Microsoft or using Mac or something, and something doesn't work, okay? And you're not going to try and install, you're not even going to try and install Linux because you're too scared, okay? But even if you just had like a sense of the command line, you know, just a sense of how a computer works, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember at school where we could mount a drive, right, and put, you know, a USB thumbstick, and, you know, we did it in Linux, or maybe we did it in BSD. Oh, and it wasn't that big a deal. Run, you know, the command line isn't that scary. I can search it on Google. Oh, I remember I opened this terminal and I could do this. Oh, you know, it's just being forearmed, you know, forewarned about your computer system. I don't know. I've gone on quite a bit there. Maybe I should clip that whole video as my rant about education, but I don't know. It just feels incomplete and, you know, even more rambly than usual. What do people say? Good docs to a degree. A maths teacher kept all books. I love Primogens and Casey's recent dive on loops right down to the assembling compiler options. Yeah. Soul turned out not to be. Looping was hogging the CPU, but okay. Programming chat on here. Okay. Probably way over my head. Proper programming. My mum bought a beast of a machine for word processing. I figured out how to use the BBSs and find the crazy MFs find on most onion sites today. Okay. Most middle schools here just teach applications like MS Office, word processing, spreadsheets. Yeah. And here's the thing, Sol. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but aren't most of those things just intuitive? Do you really need whole... Look, I understand people are going to be using these things in the real world, in business, you know, they're going to be using Microsoft, but do you need whole classes on it? And yet you get whole class on it and they don't teach you fundamentals of computing. It just seems crazy to me. Maybe it's different now. Maybe it's just, but I don't think it is. I don't get the impression. Is there any chance to stream on Twitch in the future? Well, maybe I could stream on Twitch. The only thing is, I don't really know if Twitch will work with my computer, as in, what, should I use OBS with Twitch? Can I use it from the web browser? I don't know anything about Twitch, but like gamers using, obviously Primogen does it. Maybe I will. Touch typing makes life easier, but tell that to young generation where he's, yeah. Of course, it's getting only harder for younger people to touch type because of iPads and things like this. Some schools offer a bit of programming. Yeah, this is the thing. Like sometimes graphical ways like Scratch or First Robotics. Yeah, we had this as well. We had a lesson where you were taught programming using some, I don't even know what language it was, to like get a robot to move. And this is the stupidity of it, as far as I'm concerned. You're teaching students, right, programming through robotics, okay? And the assumption is, kids love robots. They love watching robots move. But think of children and presents, right? Think of this Christmas period. You're going to get your nephew or you're going to get somebody you know who's younger and you're going to get them a toy. They're going to like that toy for like 5 minutes, yeah? Because moving the robot's arm for like 3 times or 4 times, they're like, oh, that's fun. And then they're like, I'm bored of that. I'm bored of moving this robot's arm 5 times. Now, there are exceptions, and there are people genuinely interested in programming, interested in these things. But get children to make their own things. Show them, look, like, here's the thing. Get a child to write a, I don't know, even if it includes, I don't know, get them to write like an adventure novel. You know, like those old like games where it was like choose your own destiny, okay? Show them like case statements, show them while loops, show them for loops. You can do all this stuff. They could build their own, strings, echo strings, get them to write their own little story using while loops and whatever, and get their friends to play it. So they have to pick, A, do this choice, okay? B, do this choice. And then maybe, I don't know, get them to learn ASCII art or something in the terminal. I think children would like that more. If they can release their creativity by learning the command line while learning, simple loops and basic programming principles, whether it's in Bash or Shell. I know, scary learning Bash and Shell. This is the thing now with the way things. Oh, it's not a proper programming. It doesn't matter. Bash has and Shell has, simple programming principles. Doesn't matter if it's not suitable for your computer science degree. It's just a good base. That's what I'm thinking. But most of the time, frame buffer uses 16 KB of screen. So my local school does have kids learn typing. Okay, that's something. Schools are filled with teachers who don't appreciate programming. Yeah, I mean, I never had a half decent IT teacher. Honestly, just terrible. They weren't interested, and that's fine, but it's just not a good place to be. I learned, yeah, see, it's the other thing. I hear about people using Scratch, but I don't know. I guess if it teaches you something. Sonic Pi solves this by getting kids making sounds within minutes, teaching some sort of program by proxy. Okay, I don't know what that is, but that's interesting. Seems like a neat system, not used it myself. Do kids still learn Logo when they can draw with a virtual turtle? Voice some great points. Thanks, Sean. I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. I agree. Touch time. I didn't learn until summer school. It was not compulsory. We would all be a command line, man. Let's be honest. Yeah, even if you're not using the command line, I just don't understand an IT lesson at university level that doesn't teach you basic principles, and it's not difficult. Let's be honest about it. Bash is Turing complete language. One can write yeah, Bash is Turing complete. Yeah, Bash is a good tool for lots of things. Yeah. learning and programs are good mental training, as are many topics. Computers are fundamentally brutally simple and consistent. Making them do stuff takes a lot of logic and mental organization. Yeah. Making computers do stuff, that's where it sealed my fake coding for fun and profit. Good to hear. Text adventures like Zork series. Well, what have you noticed? I don't know about you, but what have you noticed about young students? Okay, and we had this particularly in English. What do you think that young students want to learn Shakespeare or write their own stories, or hell, they'd probably rather write their own Shakespeare? It's just what children are naturally inquisitive, but then also creative, right? You can say good or bad, but children are creative. Children want to create things, and children are excited by understanding how things work. But they're only going to be so excited if they can have like a feedback loop. Okay, it's like, you know, adults and programming, right? You get the feedback. It's no different from children. Children will have a feedback loop like adults, where something happens in the shell, in the terminal, and they'll be like, wow, I can do this. But watching a robot move its arm 5 times is too limiting. You need to take away the stabilizers from the bike, the training wheels from the bike, and you need to let them get involved with making their own little programs, own little things. And the best way to do that, I think, is something like an adventure game. Write their own adventure game. Just show them a case statement. Show them a while loop, a for loop, a variable, a function, and you could program that. You could program a little adventure game with all these things, maybe show them how to make some ASCII art or something. So they would love it. I'm not saying it would be good. I'm not saying that it would be sellable. I'm not saying this is like, oh, something you put in an app. I'm just saying that this is where they'll learn fundamental concepts, and their friends will want to play their adventure game, right? And they'll want to play their friend's adventure game. Then they'll say, oh, how did you get all these options? You know, just how I feel about it. Zork and Beyond Zork still on my shelf behind me. Choose Your Own Great Adventure childhood books. Yeah. Bureaucracy is a good one. Some great humour in it. British spelling humour for you. Thank you very much for the British spelling. I appreciate that. A hash table, yeah. Yeah, get them to do a what is it, tree map or something. Get them to do some like complex algorithm. But then what is it? Some like modern programmers can't bubble sort and things like this, isn't it true? Some modern programmers can't like do fizz buzz. I can do a bubble sort in Bash. I can do fizz buzz in Bash. I mean, maybe you can do fizz buzz. Quick sort. Can I do quick sort? I think I've done quick sort. I think I've done, was it binary search in Bash and all this? And I only did that just out of curiosity. But again, I didn't stick with learning like, you know, hash tables and all this and trees and all this more complicated algorithmic stuff, because I don't need to. I don't need to create algorithms for, you know, sorting algorithms to optimize anything in my setup. And I'm not a programmer. I'm not a developer in that way. But I think basic, you know, programming principles, everybody should learn, even your grandma, right? Maybe not your grandma. She's not going to be interested. But I don't know. I just find it strange. I can only think this is because of, I think maybe it's my childhood trauma, but I think it's because of Windows 95. When Windows 95 came out, okay, so nice to have you on the stream. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, whatever you're doing. Have a good Christmas. Thanks for commenting on my videos. I don't know what I was saying now. True. I usually use tried and true standard libraries and won't reinvent the wheel. Can be fun though. Yeah. Yeah, I just think some basic, I just think we'd all be in a better place. Yeah. So when I was at school, and like I said, Windows 95 became the operating system. Every computer shipped with it. You couldn't avoid getting it. Okay. My issues with schools is that they don't have the excuse. They're not, schools, as far as I'm concerned, are not consumer centers to ship Windows 95 to children and to leave them clueless about simple stuff in computers. And I'm not even saying this as like, oh, we need to get the Linux desktop, you know, to 50% market share. And I mean, it'd be great. We would be in a much better state in our world. And I don't think this is, you know, being dramatic, in our world if we didn't have Microsoft market share. Because whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, computers are a fundamental part of our life, right? At work, at home, you know, just your phone now. I mean, it's got even crazier, right? Smartphones. You know, it's always been big with desktop computers, then it became mobile computers, now it's mobile phones. Computers are unavoidable, but imagine how much better we would be off not having to suffer the computer e-waste mountain that we now suffer, the terrible design decisions by companies like Apple who've soldered everything into the computer, and other companies have followed suit. All these terrible standards of connectors where you have to spend a lot of money to get a new connector, all because they make the laptops impossibly thin that you have like one port. You know, these are all adding up to making our life with computers miserable. And I'm not going to be one of those people who are like absolutely against computers. We should never have them. You know, I'm not going to go full Luke Smith kind of thing. But you can understand why you get in that position. You would want as little to do with them as possible. I mean, I've had it with work, right? I've had it. You're probably the same. I've had a work computer thrown at me where it is just awful. It's supposed to be a business laptop, and the thing runs terribly. It's like the last generation computer, and they've got all this horrible software on there to do simple things, and they've got this horrible web interface. They've got this horrible laptop supposed to be a business laptop. These terrible keyboards, just uncomfortable, no pointer stick. I mean, how can you have a business laptop without a pointer stick, without a track point type sticks? Just, you know, crazy. And of course, you're stuck on Windows. You're trying to use as many of the Windows shortcuts as possible, and they're all horrible. You're making the best of a bad situation, and it's enough to make you never want to use a computer again. Thank God for Linux. Thank God for Linux. At least it's doing its best to make things as least horrible as possible. Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting, right? Valve and Steam. Again, I don't play computer games, but Valve are doing a lot for Linux, clearly, with, you know, getting people to be able to play their games with Proton or whatever it's called, and really, you know, having this compatibility layer is good. In Egypt, we still use Windows in school computers. At least they teach the students free software like GIMP, Audacity, Scratch, LibreOffice. Okay, that's good. That's good to hear. Yeah, and I mean, I imagine in a lot of countries where maybe schools don't have the money to spend on Windows licenses or Windows computers. I mean, I don't know. I know you're saying they're using Windows, but maybe licenses for, I don't know, Adobe. I mean, Adobe licenses are just crazy, right? Okay, CFBDK, great to see you. Have a good Christmas. Thanks for following the channel, liking and subscribing or whatever, and joining the stream. So yeah, take care. I mean, certain countries are obviously going to be using software where they don't have to pay licenses, and that's great. But I mean, certainly in Western countries, it's just assumed that you have to use proprietary software. It's what all the businesses use, and that's true. It's true, but it's just terrible. I mean, Adobe are just. I feel I don't feel right trashing like companies on here. I know that sounds weird on a live stream, but what can you say? Does anybody think Adobe is a good company? Maybe they do good things behind the scenes, but have you ever seen in recent years? I mean, it's been in the news. Adobe's subscriptions to their suite of tools. A lot of those schools use pirated Windows. Yeah. I mean, Microsoft deserve it, really, don't they? Is that bad to say? Will this video get strikes from my channel for yeah, don't pirate, kids. YouTube, don't strike me. Yeah, don't pirate. Pirating is bad. But yeah, Adobe Creative Cloud, absolutely unbelievable. What distro are you using? So I'm using Arch, by the way, Arch Linux on this testing machine. I'm not going to show you my ThinkPad in screen because it seems to draw focus and I'll be out of focus, but I'm using Arch Linux on this, and I'm using Artix Linux on my other computer. Not really for ideological reasons. Don't worry. I'm not systemd hater. Systemd is fine. I have no problem with it. Okay, it's a bit heavier on system resources, like 30 megs, and a bit slower than loading with, say, run it on Artix. But yeah, on my main computer I use Artix Linux, which is just Arch Linux without systemd, right? Hell no. I mean, they have crazy amounts of tracking in programs, and you still have to pay $500 a year. Yeah, it's terrible. Corey Doctorow has a word for Adobe et al. And yeah, if I say that word, will YouTube hate me? I don't know. Will YouTube strike this video? I don't know. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I installed Artix because I saw the Luke Smith video. Because again, what I wanted was the fast. I do want the fastest system, really. And using Artix just seemed to be that little bit faster, a little bit less on the memory usage than having systemd as your init system. So that's why. I played with Artix a while back, plain and fast. Yeah, it's great. I mean, this is the thing, you know, when I see these videos where somebody goes, "Oh, my Arch Linux is broken. I now go into Debian." Okay, but I mean, I've been running Artix on that computer for a couple of years now. I've not had to reinstall it, I don't think. A couple of years, you know, it's been fine for me. I've had problems, sure. I've had problems where, you know, some dependency's wrong or something. It happens, but I think for me, I'm not in. Let me put it this way: if I was doing a degree in computer science, and I needed to install Android Studio at 17 gigs with all those libraries, all those things, I wouldn't be installing it on my personal computer. I appreciate that, you know, people don't have loads of money, don't have a load of laptops laying around, but surely your university would provide you with a university laptop, wouldn't they? It wouldn't be on my personal computer. Let's put it that way. I would separate the two. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But I wouldn't even be in that situation. I mean, I wouldn't be bricking my Arch Linux install. I wouldn't be bricking my Arch Linux install with some crazy bit of software, because why would I run Arch Linux? Okay, why would I be running this kind of thing? Personally, that's just how I feel about it. I heard Gentoo had a fork of GNOME for OpenRC or something like that. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Gentoo, I would probably run Gentoo if I was willing to accept compile times. Well, let me put it this way. I'd probably run Gentoo if I didn't have to compile a web browser and I didn't have to compile the Linux kernel. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, you don't. You can get binaries on Gentoo now. Great. But then it makes me think, what's the point of running Gentoo? Just run Arch. Why, you know, I wouldn't want this situation, really. It wouldn't make sense to me, you know, because I mean, on my Arctics and on here, I compile the occasional program that I can't get in the package repository. So I do it that way round. But it's the same. I'll tell you what it is. It's the same reason why I don't use DWM and I don't use the ST terminal. They're great. Okay. ST terminal, fantastic. Simple terminal, fantastic. DWM, fantastic. But it doesn't make sense to me personally. Something so critical to your system, such as your window manager and your graphical terminal, your terminal in X or whatever it is, being outside the repositories, outside of Pacman, basically. Now, that's not to say that there's anything literally wrong with doing that. Personally, it just feels, I feel something critical stuff should be in my Pacman repository. And I know why it's not in my Pacman repository. I know it's in the, people do package it in the AUR, but my critical system components, such as something like my terminal and my user space, should be in my package manager. Now, obviously, Suckless software by definition is not going to be in your package manager because you're supposed to compile it. That's fine. Personally, it's not what I want. I know it sounds mad, doesn't it? But that's just how I feel about it. Because the other thing is, I don't want to have to look at, you know, going on Suckless's website, and I know I could set up some way to see if there's updates to an ST or a new patch or something. But I just personally, I can't. My core components have got to be in my Pacman repository. In Pacman repository, I just how I feel about it as binaries, right? I'd miss systemd analyze and other niceties. Alma Linux gives off a similar vibe to Artix. Okay, yeah. I like to call Gentoo an automated Linux from scratch. Yeah. Here's the thing. I mean, I think I've mentioned this in, actually, I think I mentioned it in my last non-proper live stream. And I mentioned, what's it called? I mentioned like Arch Linux is the acceptable amount of independence for me personally. So really, I mean, Arch Linux, it's a meme, but it's not really that complicated, right? It's not really that complicated to use. I mean, they've got the Arch installer now, so you can do that. It gives you enough of a base system, but it effectively is not going to get you compiling software. It's just going to say, just use Pacman, right? You're not going to have to compile software. All your core utilities, it's not going to be Linux from scratch, right? You're not going to have to install, you know, all these little programs, you know, all these hooks, all these system modules. You know, it's going to say, basically, it's going to tell you, okay, make sure Bash works, make sure you get your network configuration working, you know, network manager, make sure you've got base devel for sudo and make compiling from the AUR if you need it, and make sure you can install your web browser and a Xorg and Wayland. It's going to handhold you to do that, right? It's going to take you to where the minimum, really most people are going to do that. Now, I know, you know, there's going to be people, in theory, in principle, I want absolute control, but it's what was said earlier, you know, you want to have a life, right? I'm not going to do Linux from scratch personally, because it's just too much. It's too much. But having a base system, which isn't perfection, but is good enough with the right amount of independence to have, to have the shell, to have the terminal, to have a package manager, all from the command line, to install terminal-based programs, and X11, and have your browser. That's the acceptable amount of independence for me. I don't want to have to compile my Linux kernel. Yeah. Beware to use flags. Yeah, I can see how with Gentoo you could probably get yourself in a mess. I don't know though. I don't know. I'm on Debian SID. Only complaint is the dependency held, which I have to resolve. Unlike Nix and GUX. Okay. Yeah, I mean, to me, Debian SID is. I might be wrong. Debian SID is just like Arch Linux, really, isn't it? It's just like the latest packages that haven't been put into stable yet. But I don't know. I don't know. I never used it. I've used Debian, but I've never used the SID version or whatever the other one is. The modularity of Linux is fascinating. It can be whatever you want. Gaming, yeah, absolutely. Modularity, extensibility. And I don't. Schools should be giving people the opportunity to do that. It's like a school going, okay, you're going to learn English, but you've only got to write in the style of Ernest Hemingway. And it's like an IT classes. You're only going to use Windows, and it's all going to look the same. That's just, in a way, what it seems to me. Hi guys, I'm so afraid of systemd trying to get anything done in Devuan. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not afraid of systemd, but if you want to use, is it Devuan? Devuan is what, systemd less Debian, right? Trying to stay repo based on OpenSUSE Leap as well. Only critical updates. Okay. Okay, I'm probably going to finish this stream in about another 10 minutes. So if you guys have got anything else you want to talk about, I don't want to outstay my welcome. I think another 10 minutes will be good. So anything else you want to talk about? Coming in from OSX, where trying to stay repo based on OpenSUSE Leap as well. Only critical updates. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've read that. Coming in part from OSX, where we've had launched D for over 2 decades. Systemd on Linux is not that revolutionary. Good stuff, actually. Considering the amount of possibilities and varieties of Linux distro, is there any point using free BSD at this point? Well, I guess we can talk about BSDs. Now, I have installed a long time ago OpenBSD to see what it was like. And when I installed it, this was pre-understanding this was pre-understanding the command line, really. I didn't have a good understanding of the command line. And the reason I installed OpenBSD, was because I just wanted to see if it was lighter than, say, running Linux with with KDE or GNOME. What was interesting with it was, I don't know, I installed BSD, and then you install your X server, or it installs the X server for you, and it has like that default horrible graphical environment, like you get with the basic X server before you install, say, I don't know, what am I thinking of? Before you install a terminal, a window manager, sorry, like i3 or DWM. Is that horrible base one with some horrible terminal in it. BSD obviously does the same. But when I was looking at BSD tiling window managers, when I was trying to get into this, I don't know, BSD's tiling window managers just look really, really annoying. And then with BSD, I don't know, it's a bit like, to me, running BSD is a bit like running, what's it called? Like Triskel, or, you know, the SFS, the Free Software Foundation approved distributions, or what's the one for Arch? I can't remember. It's just too limiting, okay? And I know this is the silly thing with these. Of course, you can install non-free software, or, you know, FSF non-free software, as they put it. But it's just a mess. I mean, SF Free Software Foundation approved distros are just too limiting for me. Even for me, you know, I'm gonna look. The obvious thing is the web browser, right? And JavaScript. That's the biggest obvious problem with using FSF distros. Whether we like it or not, the browser is king in computer space, and whether I like it or not, I need to at least run Firefox, need to at least run JavaScript. I mean, I'm doing YouTube, right? I'm live streaming this. I mean, there's just no way I could realistically do. And most people, I don't know any way around it. I'd love there to be a way around it, but if you're not running Firefox or Chrome, just in normal life, I don't know what you do. Yeah, so for me, BSD is too much, too limiting. I mean, it's obvious that like OpenBSD, FreeBSD do some nice things with the shell and command line. You know, it's a lot. What's the word? It's a lot cleaner. You know, the way they have their kernel, I guess, and the way things. Because here's the thing: we all know this with the Linux kernel, right? It's absolutely crammed full of firmware. That's why it's so successful. Maybe not necessarily in desktop space, but we know why it's not successful in the desktop space. But in the server space, whatever. And obviously, its biggest appeal in the desktop space and other space is that hardware will just work. Linus Torvalds, I think, spends most of his time just writing drivers for the Linux kernel to run new software, new devices that come out on the market, right? Am I right? I don't know. Linux is all about compatibility. Linux kernel is all about compatibility. It's not really, Linux kernel doesn't exist for any other reason now but to introduce new, whether proprietary or open, free software, open source drivers. That's my impression. Okay, I know they fix like memory issues and they fix bugs and that, but let's be honest about it. I think he said this himself. It's all about getting hardware support on your computer. That's what the Linux kernel exists for now. BSD just doesn't, as I understand it, doesn't do that. It doesn't have that amount of hardware support. Now, using my old ThinkPad, I'd probably be fine. Most stuff will probably work, but I don't know. I will probably do a live stream where I look at FreeBSD or OpenBSD in a virtual machine. Canadian Unix Greybeard with Twitch and Twitch streamer Dennis Last Miles Clark often does BSD and ZFS storage projects. Yeah, I mean ZFS is really quite a a complicated file system, is it? Or quite an impressive file system? Is it a bit like ButterFS where you can like create live snapshots of it? I don't know. Yeah, I'm fine using ext4 and monthly backups. Yeah, so I don't use. It's interesting because I kind of want to use ButterFS or BTRFS. Where do they come up with these acronyms? Anyway, I kind of want to use it, but I'll be honest. rsync for time shift. So therefore, rsync for time shift using ext4 and rsync on my home directory, if you like, or my home files, my user files on a USB using rsync. Let me start again. So yeah, I'm ext4 root boot and all this kind. No, not. I do have FAT32 as my boot. Whatever. I don't think I'd ever change my system, but I've got it just in case. FAT32. But ext4 is what I use. I don't use ButterFS, don't use ZFS. I did have a ButterFS file system once, and it did corrupt. And I know people say it doesn't corrupt anymore and whatever, but I had issues with ButterFS, so I just thought I'm just going to stick to ext4. Never had an issue. I back up time shift for the system snapshots, if you like, using time shift, and then I just use rsync for my my files, and I do that actually a couple of times a week. I've got it automated on my TTYSH that I put in the chat earlier. You can see how I do it. I have a thing that sets up encrypted volumes and all this sort of stuff, and then we'll take the volume and then start rsync and all this sort of thing. I agree. I can tolerate OpenBSD with Mac OS, but my home rigs are Linux only. Yeah. He's pretty advanced, though. I don't understand everything it does. I agree. Sadly, he's sometimes pretty advanced in his alcohol intake as well. Okay, so that's last miles. Are you aware of Asahi Linux? Yeah, so earlier in the stream, we did just make a brief mention of Asahi Linux. Seems pretty impressive, but am I right in thinking it's not yet working on all the M chips, like M3 and M4? So it's... Yeah. I know of Asahi. Watched the main dev on got me some okay. So ZFS is enterprise grade. It uses a lot of RAM to get petabytes of data redundantly accessible. Yeah, so ZFS is like really if you've got a huge storage system, you want ZFS, right? The Asahi Linux team is incredible. They managed to bring Linux to the Apple M1, M2, ARM64 chips with zero documentation. Yeah. Yeah, so I think Brody Robertson's done a whole video on that, on Asahi. Well, he's done a few videos on Asahi Linux. Really good, really good. Okay, so we're coming up to the 2-hour mark on the stream. I will just run it to 2 hours. Why not? So I won't necessarily talk about anything else on my side. So I'll just read the chat, and if you've got anything you want to talk about the last 7 or so minutes, or any questions. I don't know how this stream has been, how good or bad or boring or interesting, but I'm gonna have focus again. Gonna have focus. Back in focus. Back out of focus. Shall we end the stream out of focus? Why not? Why not? Out of focus. Out of focus. Focus. Is it going to get focus again? I don't know. Is it going to get focus? I used Yellow Dog Linux once on a while iBook G3 and later Debian Ubuntu. It was fun. No audio though. I like your English. Would you be kind to say for me? Okay. Excuse me. How can I get to the metro station? How's that? Thank you for this enjoyable Sunday afternoon. Don't mind repeating this. Thank you, DIPI. I'm pleased. Good. I'm pleased that, well, first of all, I'm pleased that my initial mishap with the hardware, so this sorry, it's a Logitech C920 camera, Elmrine. I'm pleased. If your music project makes you millions of pounds, remember who made it possible for you. No problem. Send a little donation my way. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so this webcam, the default YouTuber webcam, let's say the C920, the Logitech one, I was trying to set it to 50 hertz and it just kept flickering. And I'm thinking, before I had no problem. Set to 50 hertz, no problem. I don't know what's up with it. Is it another Linus kernel driver issue? I don't know. BTR RFS is necessary for servers, but I run it with all my Arch installs. Works well. System deboot. Great stream. Great software discussion. You're welcome, Paul Edward. I'm pleased. Pleased you enjoyed it. It does snapshots, which my XT4 doesn't, so that decision can be important sometimes. Yeah, it's a shame, really. EXT4 you just can't get like a literal snapshot, like Beta RFS or whatever, Butter RFS. But I'm quite happy using time shift with EXT4 and rsync. And the great thing with time shift, once you get that initial snapshot, that's the other one annoying thing though with time shift. Your initial snapshot, you have to use, what is it, GTK, time shift dash GTK, and run the wizard. You can't do it from the command line. Every time after, you can run it from the command line, time shift, and you can get your next snapshot. But no, you have to run the graphical only the first time. I only seen XFS on Red Hat servers, BTRFS on SUSE Enterprise. Yeah. Thanks for this awesome stream. Hopefully it isn't my last time here. I'll binge watch your videos in my free time. See you next time. Thank you, Ahmed. Appreciate that. Can't promise that my videos will be of all the same quality, let's say, but I don't know. If you binge watch and enjoy them, great. And thanks for finding my channel. Have a great day. I don't know what you feel about the Christmas period or the festive period are in the West, but you're in Egypt, aren't you? But have a great festive holidays if you're doing anything for them. Alex W, great videos. Thanks, Alex W. I'm pleased. The only thing I'd say about my videos, I do ramble a lot. What you might not realize with me is I'm not a perfectionist, but actually I don't like making mistakes in the real sense. And actually this YouTube channel has allowed me to sort of give up that idea of perfection, which has its own downsides because you can just be too slack. And I do worry some of my videos, I go off on a big tangent. I'm not concise, but I don't want to, I want to be able to have enough time, and my time is relatively limited. Like we've talked about, having a life is important. I can't just be doing this every moment of every day. So I need to be able to make videos relatively quickly, but I try to make videos based on my own knowledge and understanding, and do any like supplementary research just beforehand. Then I'll just record it, and usually it goes okay. Yeah, Merry Christmas, Ahmed. Yeah, there's a big Eastern Orthodox population. I didn't want to assume, so Merry Christmas to you too. So my only slight concern is I do ramble a lot. I mean, I've rambled on this live stream a lot. Maybe it's more acceptable, but I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully I get to the point soon enough. If I do ramble too much, just skip to the bit where I do some command line stuff if you want to see what I'm actually achieving. The only thing I'd say with my videos, though, is I won't release a video if what I intend to do fails. So unless there's an exception, like even that Wayland video I did recently where I did the Wayland config, I only really did very couple of things. But actually, I technically achieved what I wanted, which was to have an actual Wayland config, even though all the things weren't configured correctly. So like I've said in videos previously, it doesn't matter enough that if it isn't perfect. If it's not absolute, you can come back to it. So I will be doing a video, I think, for tomorrow on the foot terminal. The horrifically named foot terminal. Who wants a terminal named foot? I don't know, it's just me. I can't stand that name. Anyway, it's obviously a Wayland terminal for Sway. Well, it's the Sway default terminal, let's say. So I'm going to do a little video configuring the background and whatever, and hopefully that will become a video. And so that's sort of how I just approach things. If I need to fix something, I'll just fix it. It doesn't have to be perfect straight away, unless it has to be perfect straight away. Yeah, it's interesting, Alex. Foot does have an Arch wiki page, but all I'm going to do is, again, I'm just going to look at the Arch wiki and then try and change the theme, really. Foot terminal reminds me of the Hughes Ruby gem for minimalistic GUIs. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, I want foot like I have Xterm, just to really get out of my way. I don't want, it's like i3 has that thing, doesn't it? Like a bar at the top to show you that you're running your shell, even though your prompt tells you you're running your shell. Now, I know if you're running, of course, it's if you're running a graphical program, say, I don't know, you're running a web browser, it will tell you. But I know I'm running Firefox. It looks like Firefox. I don't need that little bar at the top, but I know people like these things and it's the default, but I can't bear it. So with foot in Sway, I want to get rid of that little bar as well, and I will look into getting rid of that. But today, I'm just going to try and get the theme, a simple, nice theme, no distractions. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully that will be the video for tomorrow. There you go. I've given you a sneak peek into tomorrow's video. Oh, and I will say, over Christmas Day and Boxing Day, I won't have literal new videos, but I will upload. So Boxing Day in the UK is the day after Christmas Day. I will have 2 compilation videos and installing Arch. So if some child has just bought or just been given a brand new Microsoft Windows computer, a very expensive one, they can look on YouTube on the first day on their brand new computer, and maybe they'll come across an Arch Linux install by myself, and then they can completely delete Windows from that computer, show their horrified parents that their brand new present they've given their child now has completely wiped Windows, and that'd be funny. No, that probably won't happen. I'd feel a bit bad if somebody did that. If somebody got a present Windows 11 on a brand new computer, cost thousands of pounds, and then they looked at my YouTube guide for installing Arch Linux and completely wipes it clean. That would be funny. I feel bad though, but maybe not. So that's what I'm going to put up on Christmas Day, something similar on Boxing Day, I guess, like a configuration compilation. I don't know. Okay, so I think I'll end it there. I think I will end it there. So thank you very much, everyone who turned up for my first official Linux live stream. And I hope you all have a Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, and have a good New Year. I will obviously be uploading videos over this period. I will try and aim to upload a video every day. I probably won't do a live stream now till the new year. Who knows? We'll see. But anyway, this has been fun. It's gone kind of better than I expected in the end. I was worried like I would never get it running because of this camera, but it's working. What I'll probably try and do is maybe see if I can get OBS working, and also I'll be honest, my next live stream, I would like to do a live stream with somebody else. So maybe you're the person on here, maybe you're watching this live stream back on YouTube and you're thinking, I know something about Linux, I'm interested in Linux, or I've got a perspective on Linux. Maybe we'll do a live stream together. I would like to do something like, I don't want it just to be me talking about things. I know it sounds odd because I've got a YouTube channel, but it'd just be nice to include I mean, a developer, maybe a normal person who just uses Linux. I'm, you know, as you can see, I'm not the most advanced Linux user. I do obviously a lot of terminal stuff, command line stuff, but really I'm not, you know, I'm not even a system administrator. I guess I could technically do system admin for a company or whatever, but you know, I can technically program, but I'm not a developer. So it doesn't matter if you're just using Linux Mint, that's perfectly valid. I have no problem with that. I mean, I don't know. Just drop me a line. My email's in my about on my YouTube page, and you know, just leave a comment if you're interested. Maybe we could set something up. I can't promise. I have asked somebody actually. I have asked somebody to do a live stream, and they've ignored me, which is fine. That's no problem. Actually, like a newer YouTuber who's just getting into Linux, I thought it'd be quite interesting to see their perspective, what they are thinking about doing, because they use a ThinkPad, an X61, I think, and they're running Linux Mint, and they're into retro hardware. So I thought it might just been an interesting idea, but they've kind of ignored that idea. Maybe they're a bit scared because they've seen my channel and I'm using the command line. They think I'm going to embarrass them or something, but I'm not obviously going to do that. But there we go. Eugenio Gonzato, thanks to you. DIPI, Merry Christmas, cheers. That would be a blessing to that child who comes upon you for installing Linux from place in Windows. It would be a blessing, but also probably a very angry parent. I don't know. If only I was good with words and speaking English. I try streaming and making videos myself. Oh, okay, DIPI. I mean, I had no idea you weren't English. Not that it matters, but I thought your English. I think your English on is very good. So I don't know. Foot is amazing. Yeah, I've heard Foot is very fast. I've heard. I was going to do a video comparing Foot to Xterm, so that'll be another video in the future. Great stream, James. What a great group of people. Looking forward to the next one, but for now, got to get some sleep. Graveyard shift is brutal. Okay, Sean, no worries. Thanks for coming on to my stream. Thanks for all your support. You're one of my most supportive subscribers, so thank you very much. Have a good Christmas. Hope the graveyard shift goes okay. And Merry Christmas, DIPI, and thanks, Eugenio. Foot just makes sense on Wayland. Well, yeah, that seems to be the way. I don't really know of many other Wayland-based terminals. Yeah, so we will see how it goes with future streams. I can't make any promises, but this has been fun. So that would be awesome. Yeah. Okay, I will leave that there then. So is this the point where I have to sign off with my now infamous fake YouTube? You've got to like, you've got to comment, you've got to subscribe. Is that what happens in live streams? I don't know. Anyway, I've done it. I've done the thing. All right, guys. Thanks again. I appreciate it for giving up some of your Sunday for coming onto my stream. Appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. Take care. Have a good Christmas. Later.